So if you guys didn't know, the French elections were held not today because it's past 12 a.m., but let's just say Sunday, the 11th of April. Sorry, the 10th of April. And the first round has been concluded, and actually, it's still a spoiler to me. Okay, so according to exit polls, I don't know if they finished counting. Have they finished counting? I don't know. These are the results. We've got Macron with the lead, Soy. We've got Marine Le Pen with 23.4%, and surprisingly, Melanchon has had a good showing as well. But here's where things are tricky, right? Here's what's tricky. So you're gonna see this here. This is pretty uneasy, or I'm just gonna call it. I don't trust Melanchon. I don't trust him. We had Bernie Sanders. We had Jeremy Corbyn. Then you have this guy. And, I'm not falling for it. I know he did write a good book. It's called The Era of the People. He was good when it came to the yellow vest and shit. But he has the same problem Jeremy Corbyn did with Brexit. Bernie did with Trump. And he's got that same problem with Le Pen. So this is what he said. He said, we know who... This is the loser left at it again. The loser left at it again. We know who we will never vote for. And for the rest, as I told you 5 years ago, the French are capable of knowing what is good for democracy. We must not give a single voice to Madame Le Pen. So, this is the loser left. You're not going to win. You failed at winning. So you go ahead and fuck Le Pen over and let Macron win. The best you can do is just back out of it and stay out of it. But what are you doing saying, vote blue no matter who? Is pretty much what he's fucking saying. He's pretty much saying, vote blue no matter who, which is despicable. You're going to ask me directly, do I need to spell it out to you? Emmanuel Macron is much, 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 much worse than Marine Le Pen. Much worse. Emmanuel Macron is much, much, much worse than Le Pen. Much worse. Okay? Macron is a psychopath. Okay? Macron is insane. He's a psychopath. He's leading France down to ruin. He's the most brutal austerity. I mean, he is just absolutely the worst guy we could have in France, as far as anyone's concerned, right? So, do you want me to tell you the truth? Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I hope Le Pen wins. I hope Le Pen becomes the president of France, and I hope she does. I hope Macron loses, and I hope Marine Le Pen wins. Which one is more Islamophobic? Macron, easily. Macron. Le Pen is just honest, okay? I hope Le Pen wins in France. Because if she does, NATO is fucked and the EU is fucked. And that's good enough for me. I'm not really a picky person. It's just good enough for me that she's willing to fuck with NATO and fuck with the EU. I mean, that's just good enough for me. I don't care what she thinks about immigration. I don't care what she thinks about culture. I don't really fucking care. Because there's a bigger picture. And this is like a no-brainer. I mean, there's just a bigger picture at hand. This should be a no-brainer. Geopolitics is always going to be more important than your internal domestic issues. Actually, internal domestic issues don't exist. It's all downstream from geopolitics. The Democrats, geopolitics. Trump, geopolitics. Everything is about Geopolitics. The only fucking reason they had a problem with Trump, it wasn't because he said build a wall. It wasn't because he was being racist and bigoted, and it wasn't because he grabbed them by the pussy. It wasn't because he did any of those things. It was only because he was undermining the NATO alliance, and he was being a little pro-Putin and pro-Russia, and he was being non-interventionist, and that, my friends, is why Trump was a problem. Domestic issues are all downstream from geopolitics. All of them. It literally doesn't matter. That's why the establishment will have this merry-go-round of Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Reagan. It won't fucking matter because they may have different domestic policies, but they all are on the same page when it comes to the geopolitics and when it comes to the kind of foreign policy and the interests of the State Department, right? And that is literally the only thing that is of decisive significance in politics. I'm telling you the truth. The only thing of any decisive significance in politics is geopolitical. Everything else, yeah, you can have disagreements. It's not a primary contradiction. And that, my friends, is why Bernie, despite his... You know why Bernie's movement was even remotely subversive? I'll tell you why. Because Bernie, according to the press, wasn't like Hillary Clinton in terms of his foreign policy views, right? Bernie was undermining the establishment, apparently, right? He was giving the appearance of doing that, at least. And the whole thing about, you know what? Let me tell you the truth, guys. Cancel me. I don't give a fuck. Medicare for all doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Name any single policy issue you think you give a fuck about, and I will tell you it doesn't matter. The abortion issue doesn't matter. Medicare for all doesn't matter. The wall doesn't matter. None of that matters. The minimum wage doesn't matter either. None of that matters. Whatever it is, taxing the rich doesn't matter. The Green New Deal, none of that matters. Literally none of it matters. It is literally all downstream from geopolitics. The rest of that shit is just details. The rest of that shit is just details. And the only fucking proof you need is that no matter where they stand on domestic policy issues, all these liberal Democrats and leftists are on board, are together. When it comes down to a decisive issue, when it came to the 2020 election, leftists were with Biden, and it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't. The fucking policies don't matter. What matters is the structural position in relationship to the deep state and to the State Department. It's the only fucking thing that matters in politics. Domestic policy is busy work. That's what it is. Domestic policy is busy work because we pretty much already live in a socialist economy where I can't believe I just said that. Everyone's going to get so mad. We pretty much live in an economy where it's like everyone admits that what they want to do is maximize the happiness and economic well-being of the majority of people. And that's like what everyone, whether you're conservative or liberal, everyone says that's the stated goal of economic policy. So since that's almost become like a formalized goal of governance and administration, it's busy work, right? I mean, you can point out how in reality, the people suffer and it's ineffective and it doesn't work. Sure, you can. But that is all indexed by differences in relation to geopolitics and foreign policy. If you have the freedom to go against the State Department, let me put it this way, guys. Can I explain to you why imperialism is the primary contradiction? Can I explain to you why imperialism is the primary contradiction? Because if you have the ability to go against the establishment and go against the State Department on Russia and on China, you also have an ability to take on the banks, the ruling class, and the ruling oligarchic capitalist class, because they are the reason the State Department has the foreign agenda that it does. So let me reiterate that. If you have the ability to challenge the State Department on foreign policy, you also have the ability to challenge the class forces that inform that position. Okay? The reason the State Department has the position it does on Russia, China, and the rest of the world at large, that we're talking about an American unipolar global imperialist system that, yes, is economic, not just political, and the basis for that system lies in the ruling capitalist class, the oligarchs, the bankers, and what have you. So if you can go against that system, you can also go against the classes that are behind that system, which also gives you the freedom to implement whatever fucking domestic economic policy that you want. Now, you can debate about economic policy, whatever, but you just have the freedom. You don't have the freedom when you're in the Democratic Party. And that's why we made Medicare for All a big deal in the first place. It's not because Medicare for All is the most important fucking thing in the world. It is not because, well, you need healthcare now. You know what? A lot of people need homes right now. A lot of people need jobs. And people need a lot of things that they're being neglected on. It's not just healthcare, okay? The reason is because it was proven that Medicare for All is something we could do, but the only reason we're not doing it is because of the corruption and the entrenched interests of the... And that's why it was an issue. It wasn't an issue because, we care so much about Medicare for All. It became a polarizing issue. It's because it's one of the examples of how having to cater to the interests and needs of the imperialist ruling capitalist class gets in the way of being able to implement the policies that would actually benefit the people, right? So that is why imperialism is the primary contradiction, and that's why geopolitics is more important than domestic policy. And you need to fucking understand that. You have the lobbyists, and that's all interconnected in a global imperialist system. So you touch that nerve and you question the orthodoxy when it comes to that global imperialist thing, you just waged war on the entire American ruling class, which gives you the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want when it comes to domestic economic policy. You can have Medicare for All, you can have full communism now, literally do whatever the fuck you want. But you won't be able to do that unless you can actually take on the ruling class. And you can't take on the ruling class on any singular issue except geopolitics. It's always geopolitical in nature. Okay? It's always going to be geopolitical in nature. All that domestic policy shit, it's a secondary contradiction. Geopolitics is the number one primary contradiction. By the way, that's why Russia, Russian media would give positive coverage to any anti-establishment. They don't care if it's the right wing or it's the left wing. If you're going to take on the deep state that's enough, right? And that's just the reality, right? So when when Melanchon says this shit of like, we must not give a single voice to Madame Le Pen, it's like, are you literally saying Macron is better than Le Pen? How is Macron better than Le Pen? Le Pen is way better than Macron. It's one thing to say, oh, fuck them both. That would be a kind of ultra-leftist position, but it's one I could respect. If Melanchon went on Twitter and he's like, we'll have no part in this bullshit, whatever. He takes an Alain Badiou position, whatever. It's ultra-leftist, but I can still respect it because it's principled. But for him to say this Bernie shit, it's like, you're gonna single out Le Pen? Why the fuck is Macron better than Le Pen? How the fuck is Macron better than Le Pen? Yeah, Bernard Henry, this guy Melanchon, someone in chat told me, they were like, I was like, yeah, I kind of like Melanchon, and they were like, yeah, but he's a Freemason, and I looked it up, and he actually was, and I was like, oh, wow, so Melanchon is a little sus, right? And then I look at this, and I'm like, wow, it actually, that chatter who told me he was a Freemason actually was right. I mean, the instincts were correct. This guy's an establishment shill. He's either an establishment shill or he's a weakling. Why the fuck would you say this publicly? In an election where the establishment can actually be unseated, at least sit back and eat some popcorn and see what's gonna fucking happen. Don't fucking make it impossible, which he probably has the power to do because he's the third ranking candidate. So in the next round of so how does it work in France? There's only 2 rounds, right? Are there only 2 rounds? Okay. And I presume he's not going to be in the next round. Yeah, he's not. So you lost, Melanchon. You lost. Do it, Melanchon, you should become a Maoist. Because I think what Melanchon should do instead of tweeting this is you say, we make a critique. We make a critique so that the next time we do it better. And I think that's what he should do, right? Melanchon should make a critique. He should make a self-critique. In the meantime, don't fuck over the chances of Le Pen, who's an anti-NATO, an anti-EU candidate. Don't fuck up her chances. At least wait and see what happens, right? And if you're too stupid to take advantage of the chaos that would be unleashed by a Le Pen presidency, you are just incompetent and unworthy of being a leader of... but everyone's been telling me from France, they'd be like, Haas, I know France is different. You know France is different. I know France, right? You know how we French used to have our own left and we were, a working class left and whatever? They're like, Haas, recently, like the past 5 years or whatever, Melanchon's whole movement has become progressified. It's become wokeified and it's become AOC-ified. Okay? So this the French left has become Americanized. It's no longer French. The French left used to be French, right? You don't have to like the French. Most people don't. But at least it's French. It's not American. It's French, right? At least it's French. I don't have an issue with the French, right? I kind of... and by the way, when I say you don't have to like the French, I mean you don't have to like, France. You can be indifferent. You don't have to especially like it. Obviously, we're against opposing anyone. We're against being against anyone, but you don't have to like everyone, right? But the French left was among the worst in the world. They did a lot of dumb bullshit since the new left, and they pioneered I get it, right? But they still had a pretty, working class communist movement, right? And it was French in character. It was nationally French in character. Apparently now it's becoming Americanized due to the American internet, and they're becoming all woke, and they're becoming all fucking AOC-ified, and they're becoming progressive, and it's exactly what happened, if you don't know, to the German left. So Germany, if you don't know, the East German left, they used to be a kind of real German, based, whatever, communist, German communist, right? Then it became Americanized, and now the German left is among the most despicable, horrible left in the world. Even worse than the American. The German left is so fucked up, I kid you not, that one of the most influential historical movements of the German left from the 2000s, they called themselves the AntiGermans. The anti-Germans used to say, they were self-hating Germans who said Germany's the root of all evil, and they would go to protests, wave American and Israeli flags, and they would say, Bomber Harris, do it again, the English bomber responsible for the bombing of Dresden. The anti-Germans were so fucked up that they supported George Bush's war on terror, and they supported the invasion of Iraq. And they were literally the worst thing. It's like bread tube. It's literally Vosh before Vosh. The anti-Germans were Vosh before Vosh. Okay, look it up on Google if you really need to be convinced that this was a real thing. Just look it up on Google. They were called the anti-Germans. Okay, and also look at the Green Party in Germany. Or as I like to call them, the Nazi Party of Germany, because they're very much sickening. It's a sick, disgusting, fucked up party. And the Greens are the most virulent anti-Russian party in Germany, right? Oh man, yeah, the German left is super fucked up. But yeah, this is despicable. This is the Bernie moment. I mean, you ask me, this is a Bernie moment. You know what Melanchon's doing here? I could not fathom someone who says Macron is better than Le Pen. Whatever problems you have with Le Pen, and obviously I don't agree with her on most things. But come on, Macron, Emmanuel Macron, the banker Macron. Wasn't he a banker? Like, it's literally the ruling class. You're gonna side with the fucking ruling class? And then you may say, oh, yeah, Macron may be the ruling class, but the status quo is better than Nazis. Le Pen isn't a fucking Nazi. She's not a Nazi. Like, get rid of this stupid idea you have in your head that every right winger's a fucking Nazi. It's not true. She's not a Nazi. She's a French, reactionary, whatever. Right-wing reactionary. Who cares, right? Who gives a shit? And yeah, Macron, you want to talk about the problematic history of the Vichy? Well, Macron praised the Vichy general Pétain, right? She wants to ban the hijab. Look, I believe Muslims can take care of themselves without fucking Macron. Okay? They don't need Macron to protect them. Okay? French Muslims don't need Emmanuel Macron to protect them. And by the way, Macron became more Islamophobic than... I hate that word, but we're not using that word anymore. He became more anti-Muslim than Le Pen did when that teacher was killed over that cartoon. Macron was the one going hardcore anti-Muslim. Le Pen was way more moderate, actually. She was way more moderate. And by the way, Le Pen has changed her stance. There's a picture of her recently posing happily with a girl in a hijab, and Eric Zemmour, who's the new hard ass, was attacking her over it. She's cool with Muslims a little more now, right? And you know what? It's like a fucking yeah, fuck it. Let's go all in. Yeah, Le Pen 2022. Fuck it. She's not bad enough for me to say like, oh, I'm not even having any second thoughts. I'm just not. I'm not. That Zemmour guy, but Le Pen, yeah. Macron, I really hope Macron loses. I really hope Macron loses. And I really don't care who beats him. Whoever gets Macron out is cool with me.